Hey folks, Quilly18 here, and welcome to another episode of Let's Fly in X-Plane 11. We are today going to be featuring the amazing Zibo 737-800, which is a free mod, a free airplane for X-Plane 11 that's just as good as any payware, or really. It's really, really, really incredible. There is a Boeing 737-800 that does come with X-Plane 11 right out of the box, but the 800 is basically started, I think, by a mod of that, and then it's been out for, I want to say, nearly a year now, maybe, and like constant updates, like literally every couple of days there's an update to this, and it's just under constant development, getting better all the time. It's really unbelievable. So that's what we're going to be doing today. We are at Pearson International Airport here in Toronto. This is some freeware scenery to go and improve this a bit, and we're going to be flying over to Boston, to Logan International Airport, which I've actually never done in the sim, so prepare yourself for some slight mistakes as I do those approaches over there. We will try to fly as accurately as I possibly can in terms of doing things right. Do keep in mind, I'm probably still going to make a bunch of mistakes. And I actually have some questions as I go that I'll be asking for people to answer in the comments. So I'm really looking forward to some assistance over there. Otherwise, we're going to try to do as good as we can. We are going to be flying without the ATC, though, because the X-Plane ATC is pretty weak sauce, not very interesting. But other than that, we're going to try to pretend and imagine what we might hear along the way. So here's our plane. Let's go ahead and hop into it. And first, what we're going to do is we're going to go over to the left and check out this tablet over here, which is part of the mod, which is lovely and does all sorts of cool and sexy things for us. For example, we can connect the ground power unit, set the chocks so that our wheels don't move anywhere, and if we go over here, we can actually open the doors, the forward entry, maybe the forward and aft service ones, and the cargos. We can open those things over here as well. And if we go over to our menu, we can also request ground services. This is just part of X-Plane.
All right, service is on the way.
Excellent. And if we remember to pop in and out, we should see some some food trucks pull up to these service windows, and we should see some baggage carts pull up over here, not to mention a fueling truck at some point. Here's the ground power unit that is connected up. So let's look at that. Is there anything else I want to do in here? Yeah, I want to talk about the settings and features page over here. This is to control all sorts of different parts of this aircraft. There is one thing you likely will want to do, unless you actually have a nose wheel axis, like some sort of controller or something specifically to use the nose wheel. You're almost certainly going to want to switch this over to yaw mode so that your rudder controls, your whatever. I don't actually have toe or feet rudder things. I'm just going to use the joystick for it, which is kind of poor. But this way you'll actually be able to properly steer with your rudder controls. If you just have this set to on, you can steer a little with the rudder control, but it's only like 7 degrees. You're going to be like, why can't I make a corner? The other thing that's quite nice, you may want to change between pounds and kilograms, depending on what your flight plan load sheet is, and your barrel units, you might want to change that as well. If you're flying in Europe, you might be doing the HPA over here as opposed to the inches. And over here on the second page, which by the way you can pan through this way, you likely will want to switch this on to sync pilot QNH and minimums to the captain mode. And what this does is anything you set on the pilot's side in terms of the altimeter settings and whatnot will be copied over to the first officer's side, because realistically the first officer would be doing that. Oh, we got some vehicles pulling up outside, but in practice in a sim it's kind of annoying for you to have to do both parts of that job. Okay, so I think that's all we're looking over here. The audio features, not audio features. The audio here. I quite like to have the pilot monitoring volume a little higher here. I think that's all I want. And then in P system, if you're going to use that, try to crank this. I still find that this is quite quiet, and we'll talk about those later on, but we can make all sorts of little speeches and things like that. And also there's a... If we do this might be a little hard to hear depending on my audio settings, but with this enabled, we'll start to hear vacuuming and the various load sounds in the back. You can hear clunk clunk as things happen. Oh, I guess I do have to do one more thing over here, which is to configure my fuel and payload for today. So I have gone and used the awesome SimBrief site to get ourselves a flight briefing for this this plan over here. So we're flying from CYYZ over to KBOS, Pearson to Logan over here. Flight level will be 350, and our planned fuel. So we'll use about 6.6, this is in pounds, so 6.6 thousand pounds of fuel for the trip itself, but between the various reserves, alternate location, taxi, and whatnot, our block fuel is 13.611. We're going to round that up to 13.7. So if I pop over here and go to fuel, we're going to go with 13.7 thousand pounds of fuel. And our payload over here, we have 184 passengers. Our total payload weight is 42,300 pounds. That includes all our luggage and whatnot. 42,300 is already in there. Probably saved it from like my little test flight or something like that, where I was trying to make sure that everything was okay. All right, I think that's everything we need to do over here. Let's stop the cleaning. Start the flight leg. You'll actually start to hear passengers in the back. It's very entertaining. I like it. It's just for sound effects, but it's cool, man. Okay, we do have an integrated checklist over here that we can use to click and go through. I'm not going to go through every checklist literally step by step, just in the interest of time and trying to rush here because it's probably going to be at least 30 minutes for us to pull up to the runway in the first place. So we are going to try to do as well as we can. But let's get some power turned on here. So we need our battery to be on, so we just close the guard. Now we have DC power. For AC power, we do have ground power cart outside, so I can just go ahead and connect to that. That being said, I'll probably have to turn on the APU anyway because it is cold out there. It is December 21st in Toronto. We are flying real-time, real weather, so it is chilly as all heck. There's our baggage cart, and I think that's our fuel truck over here. And we should get little conveyor belt rampy things to help load that luggage as well. If we go up to the top panel and take a look over here, this is our internal temperature. It's 4 degrees inside, which I think is the same as the outside temperature. And since we don't have access to any sort of outside air pumps or anything like that, I think in practice, we have to turn on the APU. Oh, you know what would help? Fuel, which I think we only need the right fuel tanks to be enabled for that. Do I have to hold it down for 3 seconds on this? I'm trying to remember. Oh, no, there it goes. Okay. Good. And you can see the APU over here, this lovely, like, sort of blur effect on the exhaust. Now, I think if we've got that, we are supposed to turn on, I think, the anti-collision lights. So we get blinking lights. There we go. Let people know stuff is going on in the airplane. Oh, did I not?
Boarding is now complete. Flight attendants prepare the cabins. Verify arm door standby for all call.
Did I not open the doors? Why are they locked? Do they lock when I turn on the APU? Oh, I bet they do. But I like how we had the, I don't know if you heard it, but there's a pilot monitoring saying things. Oh, by the way, the extra radio chatter here in the background, that is actual live audio from the real-life tower over at Pearson. Just put it in there for a little background effect. Hopefully it's not too loud, but just enough to give it a little personality. So yeah, I think the doors closed and locked when I turned on the APU. I had not quite realized that. But okay. Anyway, checklist and procedures. So we've got this. We've got you. The APU is not on the bus right now, but you know what? Let's go ahead and do that, because otherwise what is going to happen is I'm going to forget to do that before we push back, which will disconnect it from the ground power, and that is super embarrassing as all the power goes off. So we can go ahead and say, listen, you can disconnect the ground power unit at this point, which should clear it out of the area as well. Okay. Good. IRS selector. Yes, we definitely need this to be running. It's on off, so it goes to nav. We're going to start to align the inertial reference system over here. Voice recorder as needed. Flight deck access guard closed. I'm pretty sure is trying to reference this little knob over here, which does not have a guard for us. Instead, it's a switch. If there's something else that this actually references, please let me know. But I think it's probably something like that. Emergency equipment, sure, we got our little axe hammer or whatever to be able to break out of our thing. The ELT light guard closed, and the PSEU and GPS lights are all up on the uppermost panel over here. ELT guard closed, GPS light and PSEU are extinguished there, so that is fine and dandy. Service interphone is at the top, and that is off. The oxygen panel, or engine panel, oxygen panel. So with these things, I think the engine panel over here, I think we're just mostly checking that things are off, although that's a different part in the checklist. I don't think it's checking this, so I actually don't know 100% what that's referencing. The oxygen panel, I believe, is going to be our settings over here. We've got APU air on. Well, we turn the bleed on. We can turn off the other bleeds, and we'll turn on the packs so we actually get some air conditioning so that the temperature starts to improve. I don't believe that checklist part is actually setting the in-flight altitude, but I like to do it at this point because I'm here. And our flight level is going to be 350, and our landing altitude at Logan, I think the airport altitude is something like 17 feet, 17 or 19, something like that. It's a prime number, I think. So we're just going to set it to the highest, the next highest 50 over here for our landing altitude, so we'll get proper pressurization in flight. And yeah, the temperature, there you go, it's already rising over here, so our poor passengers, we're going to hope that they don't freeze to death in the back, although we are also at this point going to tell them that they should fasten their seatbelts. Please and thank you. All right, let's keep going through here. Landing gear light, we've got 3 green, and up on the top, another 3 green over there, looking good. Flight recorder guard is closed. Stall warning test, we're just going to skip that, but well, you can do it. You can hold this down. You probably won't be able to hear it, but there's like a rattling and a shaking, and it's the actual flight columns that are shaking as part of that. Manual gear extension door is closed. That actually is in here. Right back here, there's a door. Open, close, and these things I think you can pull if you want to do a manual gear. Parking brake is on and set over there. We get a nice little red light. Excellent. Good. CDU pre-flight. Okay, so here's what we actually need to put in a fair amount of effort for. Our flight computer over here. So we'll load up the FMC. And this has been customized for this airplane here. It's 737-800, engineering 26,000. We're all set on that. We'll set our initial position over here. We can put in our reference airport, which is going to be handy for another step over here. If we had this and we also put in our gate, we can get coordinates from that and use that to initialize the IRS position. But we also have access to GPS. So what I'm going to do is just copy this onto the scratch pad, go back to the previous page, paste it in there. So now the plane knows where it is in the world, good and proper. Our route today, CYYZ, automatically gets put into the scratch pad. We can paste it in there. And our destination will be Kilo Bravo Oscar Sierra KBOS. Put that over there. We'll give ourselves a flight number of Q18. Boom. There we are. And the runway. So we can put it in here. I guess we may as well. Our runway is going to be 33 right. On my... Where is it? Right over here. On my SimBrief chart, it did say... it did figure 06 left, but I guess maybe the wind changed between this or whatever. I listened to the ATIS before starting this, and the active runway for both arrivals and departures over at Toronto is 33 right. So I guess we can punch that in there. I don't remember if this like affects anything else right now, but we'll go ahead and get it set up. So our performance, our zero fuel weight and our gross weight, we could look it up on the load sheet, but we can also, if we just hit the button with nothing on the scratch pad, the mod fits it in for us from the actual info. Our reserve fuel, so I think what this does just tells us when, like, it just sets up a warning. Our final reserve is 2433. I'll just round it up to 2.5 thousand pounds of fuel. I think that, yeah, it just sets a big warning. Our fuel bias, I just have it set to 0 in SimBrief over here, which I don't think is terribly realistic. I think this means we really don't, like, we'll burn extra fuel if we have to, just in the interest of getting there in minimal amount of time. So that's fine. Flight level is going to be 350 for us over here. On my SimBrief chart, the average ISA is +7. Which to me seems a little bit odd because it is wintertime and I wouldn't expect that. I don't know if that's correct or if I'm reading the wrong thing. But for the ISA deviation over here, I think, so it's 7 degrees. See, okay, I noticed this earlier. Normally, or my previous flights, which admittedly were being done out of Europe, when I typed this in, it was putting in the Celsius. I'm sure of it. And I don't know, like, if I do a /7, no, it doesn't go in on that side. How do I say I want to do 7 degrees? Celsius, like real degrees. I don't know. It's not, I'm not sure. I think, there we go, 12 Fahrenheit gets us to around 7. I don't know. Hold on. Take off outside air temperature. Okay, no, this is not... That's not correct. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to put in the outside air temperature, which is 4 degrees Celsius.
like a pilot.
Celsius, not Fahrenheit.
There you go.
Takeoff outside air temperature, right? Yeah, I don't know, because I'm sure I was just putting in the Celsius information here. And I don't know why it's doing Fahrenheit now.
There you go. I wish
Because I don't know Fahrenheit. There you go. So, we've got that. Maybe there's a slash. Maybe if I typed in... Let me try something. If I typed in something like 5C. Ah! 4C. Okay. Is this wrong? 57 degrees. Something is weird. I think I'm doing this wrong. This is not actually required. I'm just going to clear, or sorry, delete.
Can't see how those big engines can't just be ready to go. I'd say.
Yeah, I feel like I'm probably doing something wrong. We'll put in the the average cruise wind, which is going to be something like 204 at 97 knots. Coming in from the south, so we're going to be having a bit of a headwind. Well, actually, I think we're going mostly east than south. So we'll do that. Let's not worry about the temperature, but I'm still a little bit weirded out. We'll exec that. That's going to be okay. All right. So now we can probably do our routing information. So from here to here, and our routes. Now, what I like to do is I often personally like to put in my my takeoff to make sure that the next waypoint on the flight plan sort of makes a lot of sense. So if we go to departure over here, and we are, yeah, it's a pre-selected 33R because we filled it on the other page, and we're going to be taking the Maven 2. My flight plan has Maven 1, but my flight brief sim, or sim brief website, I don't have a subscription, so I don't have the latest air information on there, so I think it's just got an older flight plan, but that's okay. Maven 2, and Bempa is indeed our waypoint that we've got on our list, so that's going to be our transition over here. So if we look at our route, our first route is Maven 2 to Bempa, and after that we fly direct to Avon,
43650 heading 100.
and followed by a direct to Hank,
28, thanks for your help, 32.
and then we follow airway Q935 to Punked. Like that. And then the expected runway in Boston is 15R. We'll have to check that when we get there. So let's say ILS 15R. And my flight plan says JFund 1, but we're going to use JFund 2. And Punked over here. Yep, that's everything works out properly. So we can activate this route, and we'll double check the legs here. And I think normally you would have your both pilots verifying that this makes sense. We can also go over to, we could also flip this to plan mode and actually step through step by step just to verify that everything looks groovy. But I'm going to assume that we're going to be okay here. I will exec this and call that good enough. Okay. Interesting. 21,000 and above, and then it sort of dips down the number here for the vectors. What we'll do, I will be proceeding basically with the rest of the startup. We're going to save looking at these charts, the departure charts and whatnot, for when we are just stopped short of our runway that we're leaving on. This is not the correct order, but I'm going to focus on getting the airplane started up in this episode, and the next episode is when we're actually going to fly the plane, is effectively the way that it's going to work. So we'll verify these things in a scooch. Although that would also include things like our performance. So here's our outside air temperature in Celsius, 4 degrees. Oh, I actually do have to go /4 over here. And we want to derate it. So right now, if we take off as is, we'd use 96.6% of N1, so our thrust power to take off. Most of the time, if you can, assuming you've got enough runway and other conditions are okay, you derate it. So we're going to derate it to 22K over here. We're not going to put in a selected temperature. You can put in a higher temperature than the real temperature to derate it even more than that. But I think for that, you really need like an app to calculate it for you. But if I do this, so we're going to take off with 90.2% N1 power. And the reason you do that is so that you don't put as much wear and tear on your engine, so they last a lot longer. As far as I know, basically every takeoff in real life is derated, unless you truly need every last ounce of power because, yeah, maybe a microscopic runway, or you've got really, really, really funky wind conditions in there. Okay, so we're going to say initial data, navigation data, and performance data has all been set. That actually is a slight lie because on takeoffs over here, for flaps 5, which is our standard takeoff, we could set the V-speed bugs, and we're going to go ahead and do that now. Oh, we can load in the center of weight, verify takeoff speeds, yeah. The center of gravity, rather, from our load sheet, which suggests a trim of 4.88, and so just shy of 5. Something vaguely like that is going to be okay, and again, we'll have to double-check those when we are actually preparing for takeoff. Okay, so that was CDU plate freight. Really quickly through here, again, in the interest of speed, we're just going to sort of, these should mostly be fine. Speed brake lever down, thrust reversers are down, forward thrust levers are in fact closed. Flap lever set, I don't think we actually set our takeoff flaps at this point. I think that's like our before taxi checklist. Parking brake is set, engine start levers are cut off, that's going to be fine. Stab trim, radio set, we aren't using ATC, so we're not going to bother with the VHF, and there are actually no nav radios involved whatsoever in departing from Toronto. It is pure radar vectors that you have to use. All flights in and out of Toronto have to be on radar, and they get vectored around. You can see there's actually no, other than the Toronto station itself, you can see there's no like VOR notes on these charts whatsoever, because you're not expected to do them yourself, which is, I guess, I don't know, something. Parking brake, engine, okay. We'll do the first officer because there's got some stuff in here that is important to double check. APU is on, equipment cooling is on normal, emergency exit light sign has to be closed off here. We'll be doing a pass through this to make sure that all the red lights are off at some point. Windshield wipers are on park, window heat needs to be enabled. Chuk, 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 thank you very much. Wing anti-ice and engine anti-ice are currently off. We will be turning this on later, but not now. Hydraulics panel, we're going to turn on the electric hydraulic pumps over here and here. Excellent. Air conditioning panel, we do actually have that set, and it's nice, comfortable 20 or 21 degrees now. Cabin pressurization panel is set. Lighting panel, well, I mean, we have our anti-collision on, and I think that's all we need on at this time. Mode controls, FS, that's going to be fine. Oxygen is set. Clocks are set to Zulu time. That's going to be fine. So it's currently 10:12 in Eastern time, and that is correct. This is real time over here. Real time, real weather. Takeoff config light is extinguished. The altitude light is extinguished. In fact, the only warnings are this flight so our electrical system and fuel, this is because our engines aren't on. Flight cont is actually a warning because of the yaw dampener not being enabled. And there's nothing in this checklist here, or any of these checklists as far as I can tell, that actually prompts you to do that. So that warning is off. We have another warning over here letting us know the anti-ice isn't enabled, but that's okay because we're not doing that right now anyway. Landing gear, auto brake has to be set to RTO. Wait for that to be extinguished, but it will be. That's going to be okay. We could do done all the fire checks and everything, which is kind of fun, but we're going to be okay. Clear, 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 clear. Transponder panel, I suppose, and this is, I think, part of like the pushback or pre-taxi. We'll go ahead and set our transponder to alt-off mode over here, and we're just going to use the default number of 2000. One can imagine that we probably would have given something else, but that's going to be okay. Stabilizer trim, oops, that's not the window I want to open. Stabilizer trim is right here. This guard, I think this little black thing that stops you from putting the switches down, is in position. And seat rudder pedals and seat belts have all been adjusted. Great. We can verify the before start procedure over here because we will be starting during pushback, and basically for that we are just at this moment going to make sure the flight deck door is closed. If I go to view 7, oh, we already closed it. Really? All right, done. CD display is good and set to things. The N1 bugs, we are at 90.2 over here. We get the little green bit as well. Indicated airspeed bug, I think what we want to do with that is set it to our V2 speed, which is 148 at this point. I'm not entirely convinced that this is actually something that has to happen now, so I might be missing what this really is, because this doesn't feel like something that's is important at this time. The MCP, I believe, is this thing. And yeah, set-ish. We're gonna tweak our altitudes and everything. Again, not entirely at the right place, but we're gonna do it when we're holding short of the runway at the start of the next video. So that is done, and we should be ready for pushback. So transponder, yes, and that. So I do have the better pushback mod, which is actually nicely integrated into this aircraft here. So we can use that instead of having to go through the menus. We'll pre-plan our pushback. Which, yeah, I already had it set up. If I go and just delete the segment, that's very nice. So the better pushback mod lets you plan your pushback. That's one big value of it. So we're going to push back this way so that we're facing to the right, and we'll show you the the airport diagram afterwards to see why that is, to get to the runway we want, and we hit enter to go ahead and accept this.
Plan acknowledged.
Plan acknowledged.
When you are ready.
Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kill the awesome little background noise of the actual CYYZ tower. We'll turn that off so we can hear the pushback and everything. We'll go ahead and request the pushback at this point. And there's always a little hitch, I think, as it loads in the 3D model and or the voices.
Cockpit. Tow is driving up.
There's our tow here, and in X-Plane, the geometry, like there's no solid geometry for this, so they just drive on there like a predefined direction for this pushback, so they will clip through some buildings and things, but that's going to be okay. So yeah, as far as I know, the only warning lights are things that don't apply right now anyway. So he's going to go ahead and hook up to that. He's going to give our front wheel a big old hug. We are going to... I think there actually is an option to auto-remove the chocks when the pushback starts. I don't know if I have it enabled. I'm just going to manually remove it because it looks silly right now to have them in there. But I think in practice, the chocks wouldn't be removed maybe until the front wheel is actually locked in place by the pushback.
Okay, here. All doors and hatches are closed, ready to connect.
Alrighty, go for it. If I hit C to disconnect the camera, we can move around a little bit. Excellent. I think this is a good time for a screenshot, actually. Post that on Twitter. With the Air Canada Express in the background and everything, it's kind of very topical. What is that? Japan Airlines in the background. Wow. That would be a hell of a long flight. I wonder, can you do that in one go? Or do you stop in, like, LA or something to refuel? Japan to Toronto, I mean, I bet they could do it. Probably, like, they might be restricted in their maximum takeoff weight or something. So right here, they've locked the front wheel and they're raising it off the ground. How cool is that, huh? I had no idea this is how this worked.
Connected and bypass pin inserted. Release parking brake.
All right, just have to release the parking brake, which we will go ahead and do. There it is.
Starting pushback, and you may start engines.
Why are we getting an alert? I have power. Am I just imagining it? Oh, I think it's the bell from the gate being pushed back. Okay, so we got to start engines now. We've got our pumps on, not our center pumps, but we don't have any fuel in there anyway. Right engine, we are just going to flip it over to ground. And then if we go down here, we are going to start to see our N2 rise up. Technically, the N1 will come slightly live, as will the temperature, but just barely. So the right engine is starting to spool up here. There we go, just a little bit. And when N2 crosses 25%, we want to start giving the engine fuel. So just going to wait for that. It's very exciting, I know. Start valve is open. Got the low oil pressure warning, but that's to be expected. That will go away. We're coming in 18%. It's climbing slowly, but it is... Oh! I did not turn off the packs. This is what I get for not using the checklist. There you go. We weren't getting quite enough air pressure in there to spin this right around. There's 25%. Go to idle. That's going to start to raise. So yeah, because I looked at the engine start checklist. I didn't check. Yeah, see? Packs off. That's the only thing I missed. Damn it. There's not much to it, but it won't start unless you get there. So as this goes above, I believe, 56%, this will... There it is. Flicks back to auto. These lights go off. and we're just waiting for this engine to... I mean, I guess it's technically stable. This is still coming up. I don't know if we want to call this... I mean, the engine is started, right? Let's see. Announced. Engine start switch went to ground. 25%. 56%. We verified that that's off. The start valve is off. The starter has cut off. And yeah, after the engine is stable, we can start the next one. I'm going to call this stable at this point. Looking good. So we'll just come back over here, flick this to the left igniter.
Complete. Set parking brake.
Ground. Parking brake has been set.
Disconnecting tow. Stand by.
There you go. See how much faster this is coming up since we've got the packs turned off this time properly? Herp-a-derp. Starter valve is open. Still talking about the low oil pressure for now, but that will start to rise. There it is. Oil pressure is alive over here, and 25 has been crossed. So put the fuel to idle, and we can go ahead and give the command to disconnect the tow or the pushback cart. I think this little notch here, I think there's like there'd be a little bolt here or something like that to hold this in place, because I think to prevent you from just turning off the engines accidentally in flight, I think you have to really pull up and out with these things to get them down there. Something like that. All right.
Disconnected and bypass pin has been removed. Hand signal will be on the left. We'll see you next time. Have a safe flight.
Hand signal on the left. Thank you very much. So he's just going to wave at us when he's actually clear over here. So start another engine is indeed done. So we're now looking at the before taxi. So we're going to turn on the generators for our new engines now that are on. Generator 2, Generator 1 are on the bus. That takes the APU gen off the bus. I guess I can flick this way. Done. Probe heat can come on now. Boom, boom. Thank you very much. We will hold off on the wing anti-ice. I think you would actually wait to see visual ice buildup over here. We will turn on the engine anti-ice. That's a for sure, though. It is less than 10 degrees, so we definitely need that. Pack switches can be returned to auto, because temperature had dropped below 10 degrees in... Oh, no, not below 10. It was about sitting around 18. Isolation valve set to auto as well. There we go. APU bleed can be turned off. It doesn't actually say to turn the engine bleeds on, but I think they might like normally have them on like this and then eat the dual bleed warning. So we'll just turn off the APU bleed now. Engine start switches need to go to continuous. Now, I don't know if you want the engine start set to both at this point, as opposed to that. I don't know. That's not one of the steps. It's not going to hurt us here in the sim. But if you've got the input on that, please tell me in the comments. Start switch is continuous. The start levers are set to idle. Now, I don't know what that means. So, I mean, we've got throttle levers. We've got this. I guess start levers are set to idle. I guess that would make sense. These two are set to idle. Okay, that must be it. Ground equipment clear. We missed the guy giving us the little thumbs up over there, but yeah, that should have been there. Flap lever set to take off flaps, so our flaps will be 5 degrees, and I'm going to use plane command for this. Set flaps 5 degrees.
Flaps down to 5 degrees.
Plane command is a add-on that's got a free version that does some things like flaps, and a paid version that adds some more things like the autopilot control, which is quite cool. I really just like to be able to say the flaps up and down. Technically, that part is free. Flight control check, yeah. Forward, back, we assume we've got full control, and that's going to be okay. Check, and the lower DU over here, we're going to go ahead and blank it by just clicking on this button over here. And I think the idea with that is if something goes wrong on takeoff, it lights up, and it's a little bit more obvious that something horrible is happening. So that's the before taxi. So the next checklist is just going to be the takeoff checklist. So we are now good. 33 minutes into the video, not bad. We are going to go ahead and taxi over to our runway, which is 33R. There we go. Navigraph is not free, unfortunately, but it's quite cool because it does even sync up your position over here. Not only has all the charts, but it shows us physically where we are. But we're going to runway 33R, which is right over here, and we're going to do that by taxiing down over here. Should we enter? Would the correct thing to be to enter taxiway Alpha? Because we're sort of in the stands over here, aren't we? Enter taxiway Alpha, then go here. We're ultimately looking to probably go to D and then go on here. Or we can go through all the way down here and just get into Delta Papa. I don't know which one is it would be more correct. Hell, for all I know, the taxiing instructions would have been to push back the opposite direction and jump onto Alpha Kilo. I actually don't know what the real life sort of things will be, but I think I'll just go to Delta Papa and that's going to be all right. All right, so we'll release the parking brake. We'll give ourselves a wee bit of juice here. We can confirm our flaps are set to 5 over here. All green, all good. Excellent. We're going to try to keep our ground speed at no more than 30. So now we're moving. I'm going to pull back on our throttle a scooch. Or thrust levers, rather. Oh, temperature's dropped. It's now only +3 instead of +4. And it's still mid-morning here in Toronto. It's 10:24. We've got no lights over here, if we recall. I think when we recall here, it recalls on both sides. There you go. Couldn't quite see it. Yeah. No warning lights whatsoever, which is nice. That is our Alpha Lima. Oh, we need to get our windshield wipers. Just intermittent is going to be fine. Let's get back up to the front view. These are things when you need your second pilot here, your first officer, to have an extra pair of hands and eyes. All right, up to 25 on the ground speed, going up a little bit. Just going to bring the thrust levers to full idle. I believe that is Alpha Mary. Yeah, Alpha Mary. So we want to keep following this for a scooch longer. We're looking for Delta Papa, which must be this one over here. There it is, Delta Papa. So if we were using the ATC, we would get some nice directions. But this is going to be fine. All right, we're going to apply a scooch of brake and make this turn. And again, if you can't turn, it's because you need to set your nose wheel to probably your yaw mode or something like that. So no going that way, but we're going this way, which is going to be okay. Come on, Quill. Try to make an attempt to maybe follow the yellow lines just a little bit here. Let's go to external view. Whoa! Let's say it looks nice. Okay, it looks a little nicer there. It's a little easier to steer for me as well, I feel, but it's kind of cool to see a little bit more what's going on. That's our runway right over there. So that is our, is it just called the hold short line? That little line over there. We're going to line up to that. We're going to park ourselves. And, I mean, we'll be waiting for instructions, but that's also, we're going to be putting the cut in this video. And then we'll properly, at the start of the next episode, we'll properly review our standard instrument departure, get to learn our various minimums, our instructions, and whatnot, and make sure that we're taking off in a relatively legal manner. So let's try to bring this to a halt over here. Not bad. And the parking brake is set. All right. So yeah, we assume we got, you know, our taxiing clearance and whatever, which would always included the directions as to where to go. There's a lot of stuff coming out here. Yeah, I don't know if it's weather. If it's clear and sunny, this comes out clear and... Did I ever turn off the APU? No, I didn't. But you said the APU's got this, like, just sort of, like, blur kind of heat effect. That's what you can get out of your main engines as well. Maybe we'll get that once we're in flight. But I suspect it has a lot to do with the weather and the dew point or something of that nature. But yeah, the APU doesn't have to be on at all because we're not using it for power or for air at this point. We'll just do a scan of the panels, make sure we've got nothing illuminated. As far as we know, we're okay. Temperature is good. Pressure should be fine. Engines are set to continuous. I didn't actually turn on my taxi light because I am a terrible, terrible, terrible person. If it was at night, we turn on our logo light so that it makes it a little easier for the tower to tell that we're Air Canada. Plus, it's a little bit of advertisement, but we don't need it on during the day. I don't think it would be it would have any usefulness whatsoever. When we do turn on to the runway, we'll be turning on a few more things as well. But all right, I think we are now more or less in a correct state. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a cut here. Next episode, we will take off and perform the flight. Hopefully, this sort of thing is still fun to some of you guys, and I know some of you guys have a lot of experience both in flight sims, and we've got real-life pilots in the comments, so I'm really looking forward to the helpful info that people have for me. I know I've probably broken about 30 rules already, and probably broken the plane several times as well, but, you know, I'm doing my best. Thanks for watching. See you next time.